Today's episode is sponsored by Future State Media, experts in off-Amazon traffic for Amazon sellers. Future State Media will build you a custom-made website to deliver sales for you on Amazon. Built to grab traffic from search engines and social media, your site can be used as a secret weapon for launching products on Amazon or just to stabilize your Amazon sales. It means you can also build an email list on autopilot. Go to futurestatemedia.com for your free guide to Google SEO for Amazon sellers today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We are talking to Mike Zagare of PPC Entourage. We've covered some fantastic stuff about finding what he calls the margin eaters, which is the things that are getting in the way of you actually making a profit and a gross margin specifically. So in this episode, we're going to talk about launch strategy because obviously it's critical to be able to launch products in the right way, getting more important than ever with a crowded marketplace. So Mike, thanks for coming back on the show. So let's talk about this. What is your basic launch strategy? If you've got a new product to get out the door, what levers do you pull? What's your basic strategy?
Right. So thanks again for having me on. And basically, this launch strategy is built on the foundation of having several ground rules in place. And the most important thing is to invest in a good listing. And you guys have probably heard that a million times, but make sure that it's a good, high quality listing and you're not just driving traffic to a listing that's not going to convert, because that's going to harm you in the future. So that includes a good title, really good research on your keywords, really good image, really good bullet points, all that stuff, good research into what goes into your back end keywords and search terms, all of that stuff, subject matter, very important. So that's the first ground rule. Second ground rule, place targeted keywords into prominent locations. So whatever keywords that we're going out after in this launch, we want to make sure it's in our title. We want to make sure it's in our bullet points, our back end as the actual phrase, because we want to make sure it has multiple touch points in our listing. And we're going to really try to be aggressive for this. And we're going to really try to stick the landing. The whole point is to stick the landing. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is for a product that has 0 to 5 reviews. So hear out the entire strategy first, and then we're going to, put the whole picture together at the very end. So the third most important thing, ground rule, is to target 2 to 3 main keywords at a time for an aggressive and highly targeted launch. But we're starting with less competitive keywords. We're going after keywords that, are not super competitive, where there's lots of competition. We're finding opportunities. We're using tools out there like Helium 10 or Viral Launch to find these opportunities. I use Helium 10. I look at the CPR and I look at the amount of visibility, the search volume visibility to make sure it's a good opportunity. And then I'll target that at first. And I'll start with 2 or 3 opportunities in this PPC launch. And again, those keywords are going to be in prominent locations in our listing. Okay, so keep in mind, now the ground rule number 4 is that you're likely going to have a higher ACOS, and that's okay. Now keep in mind, you don't have any social proof, so we want to launch this product successfully, and think about it as if you were to use a launch service, which is becoming a little less popular these days. If you were to use that, that would be very expensive because you're giving the product away at 90%. Here we're going to discount it, but not quite 90%, and we're not going to have to pay the launch fees to use the service. So if you compared the apples to apples, have actually done the math, it's cheaper to do this strategy, but just keep in mind that the higher ACOS is going to be likely, at least at the very beginning. Okay, guys, so something that you have to consider, and it's also an investment for the future. Now, number 5, use a coupon to overcome lack of social proof. Now, you have no social proof on this product and you're trying to drive traffic and you're paying to drive traffic. So in order to swap out the social proof, the lack thereof, you're going to have to use an aggressive coupon. We suggest between 25 and 50%. I've had really good results with 50%. And then what I do is I tier it. I may do 50% for a couple weeks and then do 30%, and then do 25%, then do 10%, and then get rid of the coupon and settle on the target price once I've had a base of reviews. But it's important to know that in order to make this really, really work, you're going to have to give up something in exchange for your lack of social proof. All right, number 6 is create PPC product launch portfolios. So make sure that you have your portfolio set up inside of sponsored products. I use them all the time, and it's really important. Usually I set up my portfolios where I put each SKU, each product, if a parent child, as its own portfolio, and I'll manage my campaign ad spend that way. But in this example, I'm going to create a launch portfolio. Anything that I'm launching, I want to make sure that's inside of this portfolio for easy trackability and budget allocation. Number 7, and the last one, is start with an aggressive bid to overcome lack of campaign history. So in general, the theory is if this ASIN or if the keywords you're targeting, if you don't have campaign history for that and for those ASINs or keywords, then you're going to have to raise your bid price. Now, as you get more conversions, as you get better CTR percentages, all of that stuff, then it's likely that you can lower your bid price. But at least initially, you're going to have to be more aggressive here if you want to rank for the keyword. All right, guys. So, Michael, any questions before we move on the 7 ground rules, before we go into the structure and strategy?
Yeah, the first question is a dumb question because I want to just make note of what the second one was. So the first one is make sure you got a strong listing, which is kind of really important and obvious, but worth reiterating. What was the second one?
Right. So you're going to place targeted keywords into prominent locations, which
Okay.
includes your title, your bullets, your backend as the entire phrase, your
Okay.
subject matter, and your description.
Okay. Yes. So question around that then. Do you believe in like religious beliefs in the Amazon space? Do you believe in putting together the words separately as keywords, or do you put in the exact search term that you want to rank for?
In this strategy, we used exact search terms.
Okay. Yeah,
And
that
we
makes sense to
repeat
me.
it.
Yeah. Okay. So you repeat. That's one question I was going to say. Do you?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I may change that up later on down the line as I get
Hmm.
in my search term report and I find opportunities and I target other keywords and search terms and put that into my backend search term field. I may change that up, but for now, what I'm doing is I'm putting the search terms that we're targeting in this aggressive launch. I want them fully into my listing wherever I can put them.
Okay. So exact search terms and repeated. Okay. Yeah. I mean, um, I've heard debates between reasonably seasoned sellers about this, but I mean, if in doubt, I guess even if anyone disagrees in theory about this, A, you got to have some data to back that up, and B,
Right.
if in doubt, just doing the worst case scenario is slightly wasted space, and the best case scenario is it works better. So I don't see a big downside. So from the logical point of view, you should do it, really, in my opinion. Um, Good. Okay. So what else then? So if you're using a launch code, yes, I take your point about the higher A cost being you've got to pay for launch and you've got to look at the value of it over time. And as you say, if you've got a 3 or 4 year window, even if you think it's just 2 years for a product life cycle, you've got to be willing to invest for the purpose of that, really, haven't you? So tell me a bit about this. It makes a lot of sense, but this is new to me. So let's just reflect on this. Using a coupon to overcome lack of social proof, but you gradually tier it off. So you start with 50% for 2 weeks, 25% off for a week, 10% off for a week or something. Um, Makes sense. Not come across it. So, what's pushed you to do this, and what's been your experience of this?
Right. So, I mean, they call it voucher in the UK thing. So this is a coupon and a voucher. This is not a promotion. So this is a little
Okay.
orange clickable coupon or clickable voucher that people can clip on. So the point is, if someone, this is like something people can see as soon as they're on their mobile device or if they're on their desktop, they can see this orange clippable coupon and it draws the eye, and if you don't have reviews, it's going to be a way to kind of replace the fact that you don't have reviews for this product yet. Once you start to get social proof, you can start to minimize the impact of this coupon so you can start to be more profitable. And you can tier that. Basically, the way you could do it is track your keywords. Number 8 on here should be tracking your keywords. That is absolutely critical. If you're not tracking your keywords from the very beginning of this, how do you know you're successful here? So the way I would do this, I'm going to add actually number 8 to our blog. Track your keywords, and then you can start at 50%. And as you start to get that rank you want, then you can start to lower the promotion or the coupon rather down to 30%, 25%, and eventually you want it to be something very nominal.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, you're quite right. I'm sorry, I was thinking old school with the promos, but with the coupon or voucher codes, then it's a visual indicator, as you say, that somebody's going to get a bargain. And as you get your ranking, yeah, and by the way, 110% agree with tracking your keywords from the beginning. If you don't track and measure things that you're trying to achieve, then you don't know whether the leaves you're pulling or not are having any effect. So I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah, so load the coupons, you get your desired ranking. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, good. I just wanted to dig into that. Portfolio of keywords. What do you mean by portfolio? Are you talking about campaign level, or what? How are you
Yeah,
organizing
so
that?
inside of Seller Central, you can create portfolios and you can add your campaigns to those portfolios. So I would set up a
Okay.
portfolio for your launch products just to keep a better eye on how they're doing. We have had a great improvement in our budget allocation by doing this, and also in our optimization. It makes it streamlined and much more efficient if you set up these portfolios. And we have all integration inside of Entourage with our portfolios, and that's how we now optimize. We optimize on a portfolio level. So this is just one more way to keep organized and make sure that things don't get out of control, wacky with this launch.
Yeah, makes sense. And what about the campaign level and ad group level stuff? How do you organize things there?
Do you mean in terms of the structure of the campaign?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to get into the actual structure and how to set up each one of these campaigns.
Okay.
So there's going to be 3 different campaigns and a sponsored brand campaign to set up for this launch.
Okay, so you're about to deal with that. Okay, fine. Okay, so far ahead. So campaign organization is always a critical discussion at masterminds, in my experience as well.
Right. So the first step is obviously to find a good set of keywords that we want to target. And we spoke about that before. We're going after keywords that are a little less aggressive and a little less competition, but there's still opportunity based on search volume. So you want to build up those keywords, and we're going to go for 8 to 15 keywords. Now that's going to include the opportunity keywords that we're talking about now, the ones that we're launching after, the ones that we just said, and also your highly targeted keywords, the keywords that you really want to launch for at the end of the day, like in a couple of months from now, once you have that built up, that base of review. So let me be a little bit more clear. You're going to find your 8 to 15 best keywords, and you're going to find 2 or 3 launch keywords that are high opportunity keywords where you can make an impact right now, given the fact that you have 0 to 5 reviews. Does that make sense, Michael? Because that's a big piece before we move forward.
Yeah, that's really good. And by the way, this is good because it's quite fresh content that you're giving us here. I think the idea of going for opportunity keywords or launch keywords ties in. I was talking to Kevin King the other day. He's always a very savvy guy in the overall picture of how to operate Amazon, and he was talking about a similar idea. I don't think he put an exact number on it, but basically that you could start off by aiming for the longer tail keywords. And he said something like, and this isn't how it works, but roughly if you get 10 sales on a long tail keyword, then it's going to count for roughly one equivalent of 1 sale for the short tail keyword. And those numbers aren't exact, but the principle's right. So that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so coming to that question then, would you try and target when you got your highly targeted keywords and your longer tail, ones that you're trying to get immediate impact on your ranking for, would you try and tie those 2 together, or do you think that's just adding too much complication?
Yeah, so the first campaign is going to be a manual campaign that's going to be broad, 2 ad groups, broad and phrase match, with 8 to 15 of our best keywords, most relevant keywords. That includes 2 to 3 of your launch keywords. So we're going after a broad range of visibility here, broad range of ranking. We're trying to get ranking for a bunch of different keywords using match types as a way to connect us with longer tail keywords from even what we're putting in there to begin with. So just to start this up, this is a base manual campaign, 8 to 15 of your best keywords. We're going to do 2 ad groups, 1 for broad, 1 for phrase, moderate to aggressive bid prices, and then we are going to use a fixed bid strategy. Now, why a fixed bid strategy initially? A fixed bid strategy allows us to not really rely on the dynamic down, which is like more about conversions. And Amazon looks at the history of your campaigns and makes decisions for you. But if we start with a fixed bid strategy, we have noticed we tend to get more impressions. So we're going to start off with a fixed bid strategy, and we eventually will go down to a dynamic down only bid strategy once we have some campaign data in a couple of months for this campaign.
Yep, that's good. So I hope this is making sense to people listening. If not, I mean, we've got some detailed show notes, so get yourself over to the blog for this. It's 10kcollective.com. And one bit of feedback about that from the people that have been using it a lot in the masterminds is basically the upwards version of dynamic bid strategy is a great way of making Amazon money, but doesn't seem to work very well for the sellers, which is not really that surprising. It's like the same option in Google Ads, right? Always risky to say to the advertiser, yeah, spend more of my money. So it makes sense to not go for that. But also, so basically the reason, however, to have a fixed bid strategy for the moment is because you get more impressions. Now, why is impressions particularly important at this stage to you?
Because we want to test these keywords and we want to see which ones are working. We want to kind of force the impressions on Amazon's system and not use down only as a way to minimize the impressions. Sort of like want to see that Amazon's going to give us the impressions and test it out. And if it doesn't work out, we'll make some changes from there. But we have found that this allows us to get more impressions, at least earlier on a product and SKU that doesn't have a lot of visibility.
Okay, so the answer is, I guess, visibility, right? Which makes sense.
Visibility.
I mean, so even if people don't click on it, at least they've seen it, they know it exists, it's having some kind of impact on people's brains. And plus, actually, there is some I mean, it's not really what we're aiming for on Amazon, but there is an old PPC approach that actually impressions without clicks are free exposure. So actually quite a good thing anyway. So, okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
now keep in mind, early optimization for this campaign is also critical. So if you guys know of any negative phrase matches to put into this campaign, what that's going to do is going to limit the visibility to shoppers who may not be interested in your product. For example, if you're selling plastic cups and you want to put in the word glass, because if you put in the word glass as a negative phrase match, you won't get exposure when somebody types in glass cups or glassware or something like that. So having a strong, a solid set of negative match types is also a great way to minimize your ad exposure to people who just are not interested in your product. And the way we use that, we use Helium 10, and we look at the keyword tree that they have, and we look at the words that are just not related to what we're selling, and we will add those in as negative phrase matches from the very beginning, as long as we're sure it has nothing to do with the product that we're selling.
Right. So negative phrase matches, right? Why not negative exact matches?
Because we want to dig into the search term report in order to figure that out. If we are sure that this to put in a negative exact, if we're positive, then we can do it. But I would say the negative phrase match is a better way to eliminate a lot of the paper cuts that might come from having no negatives in there whatsoever. I was just talking to another fellow PPC expert, and he was digging into the search term report. And we both kind of came to the same conclusion that 80% of the wasted ad spend is coming from these one-off clicks. And if you could reduce the one-off clicks by having a strong negative match type in there and reduce a good proportion of those, you could spend more money to spend more ad spend on what's actually working, right? So identifying these negative phrase matches is important. It would be very challenging to do a negative exact match on all of those different variations of saying the same thing. But if you found the negative word and put it in as a negative phrase match and you knew it wasn't related, that could eliminate a lot of wasted ad spend and give Amazon an opportunity to direct traffic to your product to customers who are more willing to buy.
That's really good, actually. I mean, I like that. Yeah, I was just thinking about this. Yeah, I think that's true. Actually, you haven't thinking about going through the what do you call it? The search term report. Yeah, it's very hard to get sort of really solid data around what to not advertise on for, because in theory, based on sort of data science, you should have quite a lot of clicks that are wasteful before you actually decide to kill it. Whereas in fact, if you're much more upfront about the fact that one-off clicks are going to waste a lot of money, and
Yeah. So
from advance that common sense tells you that it's wrong, then you can just kind of get out of all that kind of complex data worry and just cut a lot of cost up front. I didn't put
yeah.
that very well, but it sounded good in my head when it came out. Put
Well,
it
yeah.
better for me, Mike. Tell them
Common
what I'm
sense
saying.
at first. Yeah, common sense at first, and then dig into the research and report after. We have what's called the negative word finder, which will find these words automatically, but it'll take time to generate information from the search term report. You need time for the data to come in. This is set up initially where you're just using your common sense and you're using the word tree from Helium 10.
Yeah, I think common sense is a good thing. I mean, I think it saves a lot of time, apart from anything else. No, I like that. I really like that. It's a very sort of simple way to eliminate a lot of wasted money, and that's really good. So you've said you got a base manual campaign. Have you got any other types of campaigns going on?
Right. So then we have the automatic campaign. So the automatic campaign is very simple and straightforward. We're going to use the same negative keywords that we just used inside of the first campaign. And then we're going to set that up and basically let that go. We're going to do a moderate to aggressive bid. And of course, that's going to be probably a higher ACOS, but we're using our negative keywords to try to reduce that ACOS from the very beginning. And that's the first set of campaigns. We have that manual campaign I talked about, and we have the automatic campaign. Now, I do want to add this in that inside of the blog post, we have a whole discussion about product targeting, which is something you can add in as well if there are opportunities. Keep in mind in product targeting, you want to make sure that you at least initially target products that have you have some kind of advantage over, whether that be the price point, whether that be low review counts, poor review star rating, whether it's just got a poor listing, all of these different things. So we have a little tutorial about how to find those opportunities. We use Black Box from Helium 10 to find those, but that could be the third ad group inside of the manual campaign that we just discussed. And that's a little bit tricky to talk about like in over a podcast. It's easier to show, but if you go to the blog, you can see step by step how we would do that and where we get that inside of the Black Box and how to target those opportunities.
Okay, so there's a potential third campaign then, basically.
Well, that would be a third ad group inside of the first campaign. So we have the manual campaign with potentially 3 ad groups, and now we have the automatic campaign. And we're going to talk about one more campaign, which is the highly targeted campaign. So the third campaign, and you're going to set this up right away, is for the highly targeted keywords that you're going after. Now, remember, these are the launch keywords that are opportunity keywords. So we're going to find those 2 to 3 launch keywords, and you could set them up inside of their own campaign and really dial them inside of their own campaign as exact match type. Or you can set up one campaign with 2 or 3 ad groups that has those keywords in it. I prefer doing it in their own campaign. This way I have maximum control over that particular campaign and that particular keyword. So the goal here is we're going to be aggressive here. This is where we're going to really try to rank for that opportunity keyword. We're going to use an exact match type. We're going to use a high bid, or you can try also a lower bid with a modifier for top of search to try to get you to top of search. All right, guys, because we want to get this at top of search. We want to make sure that people are searching for this particular keyword as an exact match, and they're clicking on your product and they are converting. Once again, this could be a high ACOS, but this is what's going to potentially drive the ranking and the sales velocity to get you that ranking.
Okay, so just to clarify, so your number one, the campaign structure, you want a separate campaign per keyword, or it's possible as an alternative to have separate ad groups per keyword?
You could do it either way.
And you prefer separate.
I prefer to have separate campaigns.
Yeah, and that ties in with some people. I know a couple of guys that have launched a large number of SKUs. Somebody launched about 60 SKUs in Q4, and he said that basically exact match campaigns. This is in the UK, so it can be different in different marketplaces, but reasonably competitive markets though, especially in Q4, the ones I'm thinking of. And he said, yeah, basically exact match campaigns were working very well for him. It's like single keyword campaigns. So also I think it ties in what Casey Gorse was saying recently when I spoke to him. So yeah, that's good. Like it.
Right.
Okay.
So the next thing, you're going to have these campaigns and we're going after them aggressively. We're using the modifier. Now, here's a little thing that you could do to add like some fuel to the fire. So a search, find, buy campaign. Now, this is outside of Amazon, driving traffic to Amazon and not being afraid of them clicking on your actual PPC ad. You may think, well, damn, that's going to get real expensive real fast. However, if you get traffic coming from outside traffic, going over to Amazon, clicking on your ads, and the conversion rate and the click-through rate percentage is really high and through the roof, then that history is being logged by Amazon and could eventually give you much favorable position and cheaper cost per clicks in the future. So by using a search, find, buy, we use our email list, we use our Facebook group, and we direct people to a landing page, tell them what to do, look for this keyword, find it on Amazon, and we don't even mention the sponsored product issue. Like we don't tell them to avoid the sponsored products. If they click on it, that's actually not a bad thing because it improves our performance for that campaign, which could have an improvement, a benefit down the line. All right. So that's pretty much the strategy there, is to set up a separate campaign, but then give it that little extra boost with the search, find, buy.
Okay. And the thing it's good that you're flagging out the fact that it could be more expensive in the future, in the immediate, in the present, but in the future it could be better. So in other words, just don't be afraid to, because you are being pretty targeted and you've put your negative exact matches in. So I guess that once you've taken that care and you've really focused it in, don't be afraid to be aggressive and make sure that if people come to Amazon and click on an ad, so be it, it's actually going to be, you get the ranking juice, I guess, and B, you're going to get potentially cheaper clicks in the future. So just be prepared to be aggressive and don't try and bypass it. Because otherwise you're asking people to potentially dig through pages and pages to find it, aren't you? Which is presumably going to reduce the response.
Yeah. So either way you can do it. The beauty of this though is that you're having you have a coupon or a voucher on your listing, and you can use that as part of your offer on Facebook or wherever you send this traffic from. So you could say, hey, we have a 50% off discount. This is only available for X amount of time. And then you don't have to give out coupon codes or anything. It's just search, find, buy. Here's a discount. It kind of works really, really well, and it's simple to do. You don't have to do anything like extra with promotions or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's certainly going to be music to people's ears because otherwise you're looking at setting up chatbots and then giving away promo codes, and then you've got to try and track the promo codes, which is always a nightmare. And what percentage of them get used, and what's the actual cost and the impact to your margins. Although obviously your PPC margin software would help with that. But yeah, I agree. That's simple is good, right? Because simple can be scaled up quickly, and that's the other thing that if people wanted to launch a lot of SKUs, which is the classic way to scale, then if it's going to be a real nightmare to train people in and it's going to change every 2 months as well, then
Right.
that's a really great, robust way of getting around that. I like it. Like it a lot.
Super simple.
Yeah, simple is good.
Right. All right, guys. So this is the icing on the cake. This is the third step, which is, well, this would be the fourth campaign, the icing on the cake. This should be the sponsored brand campaign. So the sponsored brand campaign is basically a way to get more visibility. And Amazon, and Mike, we're going to talk about this like in a month or two. We're going to do a whole podcast on this. But Amazon is really focusing in on sponsored brand campaigns, and they're giving sellers more options in the future, which is really great. Ways to optimize this and ways to make it more profitable. So there is going to be a flood of people probably using this more. But what we see is people aren't using it the right way. So here we're creating a highly targeted sponsored brand campaign. And a highly targeted sponsored brand campaign uses the launch keywords in the actual headline. So you have that match. People type in a plastic cup, and you have plastic cup in your actual headline. And then you have an image that is actually, a good image of that plastic cup. And then you have several variations of that plastic cup. That's when it usually works the best. And then you're sending traffic to a landing page, a list page of all of those plastic cups. And then on top of that, you're targeting the exact match plastic cup. So it's a very targeted campaign where you're going for visibility and you're aligning everything that you can with that actual customer search term and that launch keyword. You could also use phrase match because it'll be close to the launch keyword. We've tested that out as well, but it works really well if you do an exact match and you keep it aligned, meaning you keep the launch keyword in your headline, you have good images, and you target with an exact match that launch keyword.
Hey, great. I mean, again, the word that comes to mind is targeting, and I think it's very, very focused. So how does that work exactly? So you got the spot, you've got your sponsored brand campaign, if I'm using the word right, because they seem to change the name of it every 2 seconds as well, just to keep me, HSA, whatever it is. So you got a sponsored brand campaign using the actual target keywords in the headline, and then pictures that align with that, and a landing page that aligns with that. So landing page being what exactly in this context?
So you can send, it depends on the strategy. We have a whole blueprint for sponsored brands, but, and if you want to put that in the show notes, you can. But the strategy here is highly targeted as opposed to brand exposure. If we were doing brand exposure, we may want to send people to our storefront, and we may want to use more broad match, and we may want to use more generic keywords that's centered around all of our product line or a specific product line. But here, we want to send people to we want to show them the keyword. We want to make sure that keyword's in the title. Then we want to show them the list of products in a list page. So Amazon gives you the option to do a list page as opposed to your storefront page. And here, we're just sending them to a list of products that are aligned with what they actually want. We're not giving them options. We're saying, here's what you asked for, and here's what we're going to deliver.
Wow, okay. So this is something I haven't been playing around with enough in my Amazon accounts. Clearly, I need to go back and have a play with sponsored brand. But yeah, so you can actually, can you really select exactly what products you have on your list page then?
Yeah, so you set up a list and you can select as many products. So like,
Nice.
example, if you're selling, a cat couch guard or something like that, and you don't sell multiple versions of that, you could also put in other products that are kind of similar, like a scratcher or something like that. It's kind of falls in line with what you're selling. So this way it's a better ad up front. Ideally though, what we like to do is we like to swarm the competition. So like if you have multiple variations of, let's say, the plastic cup, and they're different enough, you can actually have a detailed image on the left-hand side, and you can see that like a lifestyle image. Then you can have the headline, which is going to have the word plastic cup. Then you can have up to three different images of your, they're going to be the white background images of your plastic cup on a sponsored brand campaign, which is really powerful. People can see your product 4 times. Then if they see it also with sponsored ads, they may be more likely to click on that because they've seen you up at the top. Or in the future, hopefully organic. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we get a lot of organic sales because that's the name of the game, is set yourself up for more organic sales than paid sales.
Okay, so just recap that for me, just to make sure I've got that. So we want, obviously, yeah, they say visibility equals credibility. So the more times we can be seen, the better, from the psychology of the sale and the psychology of marketing. And as you say, it's about keeping your competition at bay. Just rerun that again for me, because I think that's an important thing.
Right. So when you create a sponsored brand campaign, you can potentially show your product up to like variations of your product like 4 times. Like, so that would be the left image, which would be like maybe a lifestyle image, or you can choose any image actually. Then you have the keyword that you're targeting in the headline. Then to the right of that are going to be 3 images, the 3 products that you select, the first 3 products. That could be variations of that same product. So when people type in, let's say, plastic cup, they're going to see your product right from the very beginning, if they're on desktop, up to 4 times right from the start at the very top, because we're targeting that word plastic cup or whatever your launch keyword is. And then, that's just a way to get massive exposure. And I forget what you said, Michael, if the more visibility, the more something. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
visibility equals credibility. I didn't
that's
make it
right.
up. Somebody else said it. I don't know who, but yeah, that's
That's
nice. Okay, so another reason in terms of slightly bigger picture strategy than just PPC in terms of launch, to have variations. I mean, you don't want to start with a ton of them necessarily, because that could be a bit of a nightmare to manage. But I guess 3 is a sweet spot, because it gives you the maximum visibility in terms of sponsored brand ads. Plus, then you've got the chances of sales being higher, etc. So nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's not this extra campaign is not for everyone. If you don't have
Mm.
3 products that kind of match up and you're selling like one widget and total opposite widget, then this isn't going to work out. It
Mm.
has to be in alignment. This is all about alignment here.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, alignment and focus, right? I mean, I think this is really, really good, because it's coming back down to basics, but with a sort of modern twist, if you like, which is like, decide what your winnable keywords are and then really hammer the hell out of them, and make sure that everything linked with it, whether it be images or whatever else, is in alignment to this. Is a message to market match, right? If somebody puts in white plastic cup with the red rim, that's exactly what they see, and then they're much more likely to click, right?
You got it.
Yeah, simple marketing principles, but in a modern context. This is great stuff. Any final words on the launch side of things? 'Cause this is really, really useful.
No, I've also heard people just combine this with rebate key or something like that to really give it the extra punch it needs. So just keep that in mind, that 1, 2, 3 punch. If you're giving Amazon signals from multiple locations, that could really be the winning recipe. But
Yeah.
we've done it without that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is also that off Amazon plays are always 10 times more complex and seem to have like a quarter of the impact. So that's a very, these are not scientific numbers, but I mean,
No.
just talking to the people that are doing multiple launches, which I certainly don't do now. But a lot of people do very complex structures which have very minimal impact, and it includes Facebook ads, where you've got to learn to do the creative, and you've got to learn to pick audiences and do lookalike audiences and fine tune that. And you know what? Good old ads on Amazon seem to even still, more than ever, have a really direct impact. So, if in doubt, it's always the starting point. It seems like I'm talking sophisticated sellers with multiple years in experience. I'm not talking about newbies, but it just seems to come back to, if in doubt, more products, more PPC, target better, really exact targeting, and that seems to work well for so many people.
You got it.
So, Mike, this has been fantastic stuff. Just to remind us, obviously you're very, very expert in this stuff. Remind us how people can find out a bit more from you guys, or get in touch with you if they want to work with you more.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're on Facebook at the Entourage Seller Community, and you can email me at mike@ppcentourage.com. That's where I hang out. And yeah, that's probably the best place. And I'll also see you guys at some events, because I'm going to be making my way out. So if you see me at some of these events coming up in the future, come and say hi.
Yep, and mention 10K Collective podcast. So try and get the word out there for that. But Mike, that's really great stuff. Right on point. Straight to the straight for the jugular, as we say in this country. So going for the killer blow, getting right in there, launching aggressively, but with an intelligent aggression rather than just firing bullets in every single direction. So that's fantastic stuff. Thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, anytime, guys. Thank you very much, Michael.